Andy Campbell joins us. How are you, my old mucker? You doing all right?
Good evening, mate. Yeah, delighted. Yeah, it's been another solid week of football.
Good to see you. Solid week of football. It means that the Boro lost the opportunity of 3 points at the weekend.
Yep.
However, they have progressed through the quarterfinals of the Carrier Bag Cup.
Yeah. Listen, we said this last week, and I've been probably drumming about it for a couple of weeks. Listen, we were always going to lose a game, and it was how you react from losing a game of football. And listen, I think we probably met our match on Saturday against Stoke City, who I thought were well organised. They've come on the back of a couple of good wins themselves. So it's about sustainability in this league. It's about reaction, and we certainly got reaction from the midweek cup game, which is nice. But listen, you're never going to win every game. We're not a Leicester City. We're not in those kind of areas, I don't think, as a football club at the minute. So we just need to understand where we've come from, where we are now, and I think the journey is still an interesting one.
It's been 7 successive victories.
Yeah,
I mean, come on, you can't argue with the fact that you slipped up on one.
Yeah, no, and I think supporters probably need that realism and understanding. And listen, it's not all doom and gloom. There's 2 games this week. Well, we've had 2 games this week. The future's very bright, so I think we need to understand. We played against a decent side on Saturday, who for me got their tactics better than we did, and we came unstuck a little bit.
But it was a Boro side who, were missing key players. We had Hayden Hackney suspended. We've got injuries to a bunch of players, the likes of Riley McGree, etc. And I did get. I was watching. I got the feeling there's a bit of tiredness in the performance as well, because it has been game after game after game with key players missing. My fear was going into the cup match, that could be then 2 successive defeats. It would be the banana skin. But wasn't the case. It was a decent performance, just to stop any chance of any rot setting in. Yeah,
listen, I think Saturday was important that we got out of our system straight after the game and look forward to another game. I think sometimes it's worse as a player, as a supporter, that you wait for the following Saturday to get a defeat out your system or another game coming forward. So it's important that that game came very quickly, and I think the performance and the result was both very solid and fantastic, really. And I think with what we'll discuss later on about the draw for the next round, listen, if you're going to pick a cup run, Middlesbrough Football Club have picked the absolutely perfect cup run from start to finish so far. So it's been a picture perfect Carabao Cup execution so far.
You've got a guest coming on. Just before we get there, just a reminder to those who are watching as well as listening. If you're watching, you can follow and subscribe the usual ways, whether it's Facebook Live, whether it's YouTube. If you want to get a message through the studio, you can. Facebook Live is the best medium if you're watching online, if you're listening on the radio, DAB across Teesside, or whether it's our online streams. You can WhatsApp us. The WhatsApp number into the studio, 0330 043 2002. That's 0330 043 2002. That's a WhatsApp message into the studio for Andy Campbell and guests.
Yeah, listen, we've got a real close friend of mine who's coming on the show tonight. Craig Harrison played for Middlesbrough, came through in 1997, I believe. Played in the successful promotion teams, played in the Premier League. He's had some real interesting highs and lows in football, which I'm sure we'll dig deep into a little bit. He's the most successful manager in Welsh League football. 27 major trophies, I believe, as a manager, which is some apologies, Craig, if I've got that wrong. Managing the Champions League, but more importantly, like an unbelievable human being from football. So great to have you on the show, Craig.
Hi Cam, how you doing, mate?
You okay? Good, mate. Thank you very much. You okay?
Dave, you okay?
Yeah, good to see you, Craig. It's been a long time, but I knew nothing of this record. I knew it was impressive, but I didn't realise it was as impressive as Cam's just laid out.
Yeah. I've been very, very fortunate to be. This is my second spell as manager at TNS, who historically have been the dominant force in Welsh football, qualifying for European competition for the last 20 years in a row. And the majority of them being Champions League. And I had a short spell at a local rival, Connors Quay, and won a trophy there as well. So yeah, I've been very, very fortunate to be in very good clubs and had some very good players and still got some very good players. But the experience of managing in the Champions League, even though it's the early stages, is it's a great opportunity, and it's something that I cherish very, very muchly.
Craig, talk me through the pressures then will go with being a manager. You know what I mean? Like the highs are massive, but the lows are obviously bigger at times. And obviously you see a lot of managers which lose their jobs because of results and the way things go. But talk me through a manager's thought process in all of this.
Yeah, it's obviously, I think, the first time it happened to me was not a million miles away from where you are now, was it? It was up at Hartlepool. That it didn't particularly go very well for the way the club was going, the situation, and behind the scenes, etc., etc. And that was my first sacking. And the saying in the managerial circle, if you're going to be in for a length of time, you're never a proper manager until you've been sacked. So I've got over that hurdle, and hopefully it's the first and last. Because it's not a very nice feeling. It's a feeling of you feel like you're not worth anything. Your confidence is low. As much as I had success with TNS previously, and it was only a small blot on the landscape. Hartlepool, it was a year out of a 10-year previous successful sort of tenure with TNS. Then it's never nice. It's never nice. But then again, I think you've got to get over yourself a little bit and realise that it's part and parcel of the job. You put yourself in that position, and and if you don't like the thought of being sacked, then it's probably not the job for yourself.
Craig, talk me through then how that made you stronger as a person. I know we spoke quite a lot, as we always have, but tell the viewers, because I think people see football as all positive. You know what I mean? That people get well paid and people get well looked after, which they do. But tell people about the lows of football and how low you felt at times during that spell. Yeah,
it is. It's you look at it and obviously when you play and you get on with your own job and knowing if you're not quite at it, you've got another 10 teammates to get you out of a tough situation. But when you're manager, the buck stops with you. It's all of a sudden it's not our players' faults. It's not other people's faults. It's the manager's fault. But we know players, and I was a player myself, and you were a player, and you've done some coaching and managing as well. And it's when you become on the other side, you realise probably. I look back and think, I wish I had have been a bit more conscious of coaches and managers when I was a player, because you tend to, oh well, that's it, it's all right. My job's done. I've it's after training you're done, after games you're done, But as a manager, it never leaves you. It's something that you're thinking about 24/7 hours of the day. You wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it. You go to bed thinking about it. You wake up thinking about it. You spend your days off thinking about it. You spend your family time thinking about it. It just literally, it's either, and if you're going to be successful, you're either all in or you're all out. And it takes over your life completely. And I'm very, very fortunate. I've got a fantastic family, an understanding family, and understand that where my sort of drive comes from through finishing early. Then I retired at 26, so I think I'm close to 550 games as a manager at 45 years old. So that's my bulk of my career. I've been a manager for nearly 3 times longer than what I was a player, almost.
Wow!
So it's something that you get huge highs, huge lows, because you probably feel a bit more proud when you win because you probably played a large part of that, and then if you get beat, it feels a lot lower because you get the brunt of it as well.
No, listen, and I think we can relate it to, obviously things weren't going great at Middlesbrough at the start of the season. We went through a real sticky patch in terms of results. The manager never changed his philosophy. He never changed his style. He came out in the media. He was very self-conscious of what was going on. He was very cool and calm, in my opinion, of how he wanted things to pan out. Is that what you expected from someone like Michael, Craig, or is that something that you? Obviously, I don't want to give your own traits and your clicks away for opposition and teams to copy, but is that something that you like to emulate yourself?
Yeah, I think it is, without a doubt. It was. It's no surprise that Middlesbrough have only been beat once in the last 10 games. With I think is it 8 wins and 1 draw and 1 defeat.
Yeah.
So there's no surprise with that because of how well done last year. Obviously lost a few key players, but Michael Carrick showed that he's going to be. He was a fantastic player. He was a very calm player. He seems like he's a very calm character, a very calm manager, and there's the only 3 or 4 games away from a crisis as being a manager. From the public and from the media's point of view, but it seemed far from that, and I think it's something that I think the players would probably respect. The players will follow strong leadership. It's quite easy to go off on one and change your ideas, etc., etc. But I'm not too sure that shows somebody that knows what they're doing, shows somebody that's not quite sure and bouncing from one idea to another, one philosophy for another. But obviously Michael carried on playing the way he wanted to play, and it's reaping its rewards as it did last season.
Is that correct though? Is that because he's a young manager? But is that because he's young and he's using his own fresh ideas coming through? Because obviously you see older managers. I'll use Harry Redknapp as an example. Neil Warnock. I'll put Chris Wilder in probably that category. Is the new fresh approach the good approach?
Well, winning football games is a good approach, isn't it? I think there's no right and no wrong. I think what the biggest thing is authenticity. So you be who you are, and and you live by the sword and you die by the sword. Players, as much as professional footballers get a lot of stick about not being the brightest, etc. They're very, very, very switched on to reading a room and realizing when you're not being who you're being, and you're trying to be something different, and you're pretending to be something, and they're very, very good at understanding and knowing when you're being your authentic self. So when people start changing and trying to be something that they're not, then professional footballers are very good at smelling that, seeing that, and then all of a sudden it's a weakness.
Yeah.
So obviously Michael stuck to his guns, stuck to being himself, and there's no coincidence that they're winning football games again, and will win football games, and I've got no doubt about it that they'll be in the playoffs.
No, I totally agree. Let's not stereotype everybody, because we came across some very thick footballers, by the way. Some very, very thick footballers.
And there's some sensible ones, like.
There's a few. There's a handful. There's a handful. But there are some proper thick footballers. Craig, I want to take you back in the day. Your time at Middlesbrough as a footballer. The highs, the lows, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah. Talk us through some of the good things. So, have you got some highlights that you'd like to share with the viewers?
Yeah, obviously, debuts are always high. Making my first team debut, it was away at Barnet in the Coca-Cola Cup. It's
tell everybody, Craig. Tell everybody about the pitch. What's the pitch like?
Yeah, it was uphill first half, downhill second half. So yeah, it was. But it's something that you work so hard for. You've been through the same system. We were very lucky to have some very good people at our football club at the time. With coaches, young youth coaches, reserve team coaches, scouts, etc. It's a fantastic club and still is, in my opinion, the best there is in England at producing young footballers that either go on to play for Middlesbrough or have a career somewhere else.
Totally.
It's got to be right up there with all football clubs across the UK. So
Craig, on that point, it's a great point, but why is that then? So what have they got right? What have they continued to get right, and what does everyone else have to follow suit with?
Well, I think that's the $1 million question, isn't it? I think first and foremost there's a lot of good people. The people that were there. Obviously Ron Bourne had a lot to do with myself coming in. Peter Kirkley did. Obviously worked for a bit in Newcastle as well. The youth coaches. I had a lot of time spent with Dave Geddes, who's still a friend of mine now. Someone who I speak to, someone who I've spoke to and speak to about football. Almost as a mentor. And then you look at it. Then you look at the other coaching staff that were there. And Gordon McQueen. God bless him, was a big influence on my career. Gordon was he was a big advocate for myself, pushed me from reserves through the first team, and got the opportunity through that way. So yeah, I think first and foremost, I think it's having good people that are very good at the job.
Yeah.
And all them people I've just spoke about were very good, and a lot more. The likes of the Mark Proctors of the world, Paul Jenkins of the world. All them people who were real Boro people through and through. Whether they were from Middlesbrough, whether from the surrounding areas or out the area, I just think that they've spent a lot of time getting the youth right and getting the basics right, and then also as well, you've got to look at it. The era we were in, Cam, we were very, very lucky. That you would have seen more than me, because I'm from Gateshead, a bit further out, and you're right on the doorstep in the Ayresome Park days, and in the lower league days. But you look at the transformation when we come through. From going to Tollsby Road training to then having Rockcliffe Park, and then going from Ayresome Park, which was a great stadium, great atmosphere, great old ground, but then going to Riverside. The players were signed, and but above all that as well, very, very lucky that the manager at the time, obviously Brian Robson, still give youth players a great opportunity, as the club always has. So it would be quite easily when the chairman was putting a lot of money into it and supporting everybody, and the club was really moving forward on and off the pitch, to forget about the youth. We've seen loads of clubs that have done that, but they didn't. It was at the heart of it. There was always 5 or 6 youth team players who come through the system, involved with the first team, in lads above that, the Stampies of the world, they were involved as well. That were always like, they were always a fabric of a Middlesbrough football team, a first team, the youth team and the young local lads.
No, totally, mate. You made a great point there, and I'm going to just elaborate on it a little bit about where the club was, where the club is now, evolved, and you look where other football clubs are as a whole. Do you think players are as hungry as we had to be, or we needed to be when we were young players, that we had to make something of a bad situation? You know what I mean? We wanted to break into something which was big. You know what I mean? I look now when younger players are well paid straight away. They weren't on the £37.50s or the £42.50s like we were back in the day, which I think, for me, in my personal opinion, for me, and I can only talk about myself, that grounded me. It got me ready and got me hungry to go and make my first team debut, to go and play in the youth team, to go and play in the reserves, to go and play for Gordon, to go and train with the first team. I think sometimes a lot of things are given to players a little bit earlier than probably they should be.
Yeah, I think a lot of that. I think it is. I've got no bones about it. I'm very, very fortunate to play in a really strong team that won come second in the championship, got promoted to the Premier League, played in the Premier League in a really good players. But I can quite honestly lay a hand on heart, my best 2 years of football were the 2 years I'd done as a YT, as apprentice.
Totally.
We everyone was equal. Everyone dug in. Everyone had to do their jobs. Not only did you learn your trade as a footballer, you learned your trade as a person. You realised the accountability. You realised the responsibility in the grounding of hard work. And I think it went hand in hand with becoming a good professional footballer. Whether it's right or wrong, there, it doesn't happen anymore. In my personal opinion, I think it's wrong. But that's the way the world at this moment in time, isn't it? Totally. I know that you've got young children. I've got a young child, and I feel for them sometimes when I look, and I wouldn't want to grow up in a world the way it is today, because there's that much choices, there's that much opportunities, as in there's that many things going on, social media, everything, where it might have just been me and you and the other lads. All I ever wanted to do was play football. It was never about money. It was never about nice cars, a nice house, and whatever. It was all about, I wanted to be a professional footballer from as long as I can remember, and whatever come along with that was an added bonus.
No, totally.
Can I jump in, fellas? Because we've got some questions from the fans. Just for those who might be joining us on the radio via DAB across Teesside or online, it is Craig Harrison, former Boro player and TNS manager currently, second spell, who's Andy's guest on Cam's RedArmy. Couple of points. Gavin Randall, hiya mate. Who did you play with? That sticks in your mind in your playing days. And also a point from Rye, who says, Craig, what's your favourite moment playing for the Boro?
Well, I was very, very fortunate, played with some unbelievable players, unbelievable characters. We're talking about world-class players. I was a product of the Reggie Boys Club in Gateshead, coming through the system, and obviously Paul Gascoigne played for Reggie Boys Club. He was an absolute icon of mine and a hero, and to actually take the field in a professional football game with your idol is unbelievable. So, Paul Gascoigne was always and always has been a big favourite of mine. And one player that I'm sure doesn't get underrated by the Boro fans, but probably is underrated by a lot of supporters, is Paul Merson. Merce was an unbelievable player. He was absolutely fantastic. Without not being disrespectful to anybody else, but without him, the season we got promoted, he was a different class. And you're talking about two English players there when we had some fantastic foreign players, Ravanelli, Janino, Emerson. The players of that caliber. The big ones that I think Paul Merson was probably the best I played with at Middlesbrough. In his peak, I thought he was in his peak at that time. From a point of view of a complete idol was Paul Gascoigne, and in playing reserve games at 16, 17 with Brian Robson was an absolute pleasure as well. It was, you're talking about three of the best English players that there's been for a long time.
Craig, you talk about those two though. Those two from the pivotal, weren't they? You know what I mean? Those two got us over the line. You know what I mean? Those two got us over the line in games. They got us over the line in big moments. You know what I mean? You talk about the last game of the season, Dave, about the Oxford United game. We joined 0-0 in a big moment. That sink or swim moments for football clubs. You know what I mean? That got us where we needed to be at that moment of time, because we'd just been relegated. We need to get promoted, and the pull-in extra level performances, go that extra 10-15%, because as other players we give what we had, you know what I mean? I think we give everything, you know what I mean? I know Craig started that game, played a full game that game, but there's a lot of players who left everything on that pitch and it wasn't going their way. Paul and Andy Townsend and those kind of players stepped up another 5-10-15% in the second half, and we go and score 4 goals, you know what I mean? Higgy gets 2 goals, and it has and Alan Armstrong as well, you know what I mean, comes on and you know what I mean, does what he needed to do, and it absolutely just cements everything what Craig just said there about those two. Just epitomised that tag of world class, because you know what I mean, that word's branded about a lot now in 2023. You know, I'm playing the Champions League, world class. It doesn't work like that. World class is you can change a team from a good team to an excellent team. You can change your own individual performances in from a good performance to a top performance, and a 1 goal into 3. You know, so it's a big thing.
And memories of playing for the Boro, Craig. I know you've mentioned the players you've played alongside. Is there any particular game or moment or that you were involved in?
I think it'll take a lot of beating. The Oxford United game.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. Obviously, we were going in the right direction. The club had just been relegated from the Premier League. We had some big players. We just moved not long into a new stadium, a new training ground, and to get promoted by going straight back up again, and for myself on that day to start the game and finish the game, it was unbelievable. Something that I think is probably the pinnacle, and closely rivaled with my Premier League debut against Leeds at the following season at home at the Riverside, which was a 0-0 draw. And we're talking, going back a little bit as well, talking about, you start off as a YT, you start off earlier than that, just want to play football. Never about money. It was never about money once I got to play in the first team. It was always about moments like that. And to see the stats that are banded about now, it's less than 0.1 or 0.2% that, players become a professional footballer, but then also you move into a different level by playing in the Premier League. Then it's just something that you just can't believe. A boy from Gateshead who just wanted to play football gets that opportunity. I still think when we talk about it now, you don't actually understand. We all know players that have played at good levels, etc., etc. But it's such a small fraction of players that have played in the Premier League, and I don't think it really still hasn't sunk in now, because you just get on with it, and fortunate you live that life, and a lot of people that you surround yourself with have been fortunate to do that as well.
You talk about those two games there, Craig and Dave. That a big moment, debut, clean sheet against Leeds.
Yeah,
4-0, another clean sheet. I mean, there's no coincidence, is there? Craig, the the big game, the Oxford game, was a big game, but it was a decent party after, though, wasn't
it? Yeah. Of what I can remember, yeah. I know we certainly, and that was another great thing about it. We got some great friends even now. I was only talking to Robbie Stockdale this morning. I'm still friends with Robbie, and obviously yourself, Cam. And we got a strong bond. On social media, even the boys that never made to get into the first team.
Yeah.
But I think that was a special thing. It wasn't one or two young lads, local lads that had come through the system. There was 7 or 8. And everyone was really pleased for each other.
Yeah.
Everyone was really happy for each other, and everyone celebrated together and enjoyed it. So you didn't feel left out.
Yeah, I think Dave, successful teams aren't just made on the pitch. They're made in the change room. They're made elsewhere. There was I'm not going to sit here and say it wasn't probably drink influence. There was a lot of a drinking culture back in the day. We were governed by a manager who loved to drink. We were governed by coaches and assistant managers who loved to drink.
Yep.
So the players were pushed down that direction, and we gained probably more respect for each other. We got together as a group. It revitalised us as young players and experienced players in the pub situation, and we partied hard and we played even harder at times. So it was, I think it brought the group together, and it made us very successful both on and off the pitch, I think.
And those stories are left in the dressing room, I'm assuming. What happens?
What happened to the change room stays in the change room, apart from when you're swinging on lampposts and things that gets Craig in it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, just as an example of that, you don't have to go back any further than less than 24 hours ago. Newcastle going to Manchester United, with all the talent that Manchester United had on that pitch, it was Newcastle that played as a team.
Yeah, and I think that's what you've got to instill in your side. Craig's still a young manager. Regardless of the 500 games, but he's still a young manager. And Eddie Howe, young manager, and you've got to instill that self-belief in your players. And they went on that pitch yesterday with a weak inside. They're going to the theatre of dreams. They're going
7 players hadn't performed in the Premier League this season.
They're going to a cauldron of against a side who was hurting from the weekend against a good Man City side who absolutely tortured them from minute 1 to minute 90. And I thought they were going to have a reaction, but they absolutely blew them away. So there's ways that managers can instill confidence in players without having to play them week in, week out, and whatever Eddie's doing, he's just blowing people away because he's absolutely magic for what he's doing, and that pains me a little bit to say it, but I'm honest.
And me to accept it. Yeah, same.
I'm honest, and we accept it.
Yeah.
But you look at that situation as well, and you look at there's obviously a club, United, and
you're only saying that. You're only saying that because you're a Geordie, though.
Yeah. No,
but you look at it, and in the manager, Brian Robson had a great relationship with Steve Gibson.
Yeah.
It is no coincidence that it runs right the way through the football club, and there's no coincidence at this moment in time that Manchester United look a shambles of a club from top to bottom. There's no leadership. There's no clear identity. There's no behind the scenes communication, organisation. And you look back at then all them years ago when we're talking about structures in place, etc. But it was clear to see, that we had a very young, enthusiastic, dynamic chairman who went hand in hand with a ex-England captain and great in Brian Robson, and they both drove each other on and got on like a house on fire, and that was no coincidence that it seeped down right the way through the team and right the way through the town and right the way through the football club.
Absolutely, I think, Craig, what I'd like to do, I'd like to talk about one point. Obviously, I've kept you probably longer than I was planning, but I want to dig into. Probably people might see it as a negative, but a negative which turned into a massive positive from you. You came out the game at a very early age, through obviously a host of serious injuries, but one extremely serious injury. If you don't mind telling people how you overcame something so serious, and going into it a little bit and just telling people how you come out the other side, because I think people come out of football at various ages, if that's not making it at 16 or getting released at 19, 20, or coming out a little bit earlier than they plan to, but you've come out the other side, and I think it's a success story, and I don't think we ever hear that. The government bodies don't ever tell those success stories. I think we should, but tell everybody how you came out of the other side of a negative situation.
Yeah, it was, obviously we talked about all them things we just spoke about, every young boy's dream to be a professional footballer. You get there, you have a reasonable amount of success. You play in the Premier League, play in the Championship, so you're doing really well. And then it was all taken away in the instance with a moment of, on a football pitch that I had a double compound fracture in my fib and tib once I'd moved on from Middlesbrough to Crystal Palace. So, you look at it, and there's plenty of things that you can go into some dark places. I was very, very fortunate. Got a fantastic family. Support system. Some great friends, and I managed to get through it through mainly. I think it was without speaking, too highly of myself. I think I've got quite a strong character. Adversity, and really, like I said, friends, family, my mum and dad, my sister, and my partner now, Danielle, and my little girl, and that's the way it happened. It wasn't like it is now. There's lots and lots of support now. There's lots of people to reach out to, PFA professionals, etc. I'm not saying they didn't do their bit, or and I probably didn't reach out as much as what I should do, but back then, it's got to be nearly 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So 20 plus. So there wasn't the social media, the obviously the mental health, etc. So it was tough. But like I said, it was probably a mixture of my own determination and support from family and friends. That I was very, very lucky to have a support group like I did, and and probably as I stand now, it's probably one of the best things, stroke worst things that happened to me in my life, because if I want to go, which I'm going to stay in football as long as I can, and there's nothing, and I mean nothing, can hurt me as much as that day when I sat with the surgeon and he said, "Nah, Craig, I think you're going to have to retire. There's nothing more we can do. You're not going to be able to play elite football again." So no matter what happens in my football life again, nothing will be as bad as that day. So out of a bad situation has become a good situation that I've got better tools to deal with the laws of football, which as we both know, certainly in management, there's lots of laws, and I just referred to one earlier with the Hartlepool United. So, yes, it was devastating getting sacked for the first time, but if you look at it, and I take my time back to 20 odd years ago when I had to retire from my boyhood dream, then it didn't compare to that. That pain was, for want of a better, not being dramatic, but you went into almost mourning of something, and grief of what you've worked all your life for to become, and that was something that's probably it has not probably definitely molded me into a stronger, better person now in life and in football.
Dave, this isn't the first time I've heard this story, and obviously very good friends with Craig, and I've had him on other shows previously, and to still hear the story and still have it as fresh as he hears it, as he says it, and it makes you emotional yourself listening to it, because somebody with probably less confidence in themselves, less mental health strength like Craig's got, less family support, it could have been a very different outcome. And I think people who are listening, and people who have had negatives in their life, and listen, there's lots of them, and if that's in sport, if that's in just normal general well-being, reach out to people, look to those within your own structure and your own family support, because to be able to see a success like this is just so refreshing, and just so it just makes you so pleased, doesn't it, that there's these kind of stories out there, because I think with all the negatives that we hear in the world and see on a daily basis, I think to see this and to see someone who's, and I'm going to say it, someone who's that successful and is that good at what they do, we need to have more people like that around, and I think there'll be more people like Craig Harrison around, who we don't hear about, and I think Craig should tell that story a lot more, in my opinion.
And obviously this happened after you'd left Boro, Craig, so there might be a lot of Boro fans who are not aware of it and not aware of the story. So thanks for sharing that one. And I know you keep touching on the Hartlepool experience, but we have got a message in from a Darlow fan. Can you believe tonight? So Ian sent one across, and he says, "Good luck with the future, Craig." And this comes from a Darlington fan. So there you go. That's the ultimate, isn't it?
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's almost like a Sunderland fan wishing a Newcastle player well. Yeah, indeed.
No, but Craig, listen, really appreciate your time. You know what I mean? I think good luck with everything in the future. Obviously, I'll be speaking to you on a regular basis anyway. But I think from everyone on the show and all the people, all our viewers and everybody, we wish you all the very best and all the best to your family as well.
Thank you very much, Cam. Take care.
Cheers,
Thanks, Dave.
Cracking stuff, Craig. Good to see you again, mate.
Bye.
All the best.
Bye.
Fantastic, lad.
Blows your way, Dave.
Ian, the Darlington fans, actually made the comment. The trouble is with men, they don't speak out about their health problems when it comes to mental health.
Totally listen, and he's obviously gone now from the call, and I spoke to Craig on probably a daily basis towards the end of his time at Hartlepool, and I know how tough things were. Social media was the devil. Yeah. Social media was probably the end of it, and the thing that really, really, really riled him the most, and I think when we played the game, social media wasn't apparent, which I think we're all glad with for whatever reason. But I think when you're a manager and you start to read social media comments, like we all do, I think we're all human. And I think when you get notification on your phone and somebody says something about you, good or bad, you want to read it. But then when you hear the bad, and then the bad, and then the bad, and it continues and it gets worse, and some of the comments are quite personal.
It can be a vicious.
It does, yeah. And I think then you start to believe. And when you start to believe yourself and not listening to the people that you should be listening to, and listen, it's difficult because you get embroiled in that kind of situation and start to believe the bad, even though you've got your own abilities which are all very strong. I think it can be a real dark, like you spoke about, real dark and negative place.
Well, doing well now, and
doing great,
and with probably one of the most successful Welsh teams
ever.
Absolutely.
Ever, yeah.
I know everybody looks at Cardiffs and Swanseas and all that sort of stuff who perform in the English game, but from a Welsh perspective, TNS they've been there. They've always been there in European action that I can remember. Yeah,
no, listen, obviously I'm a big Craig Harrison fan as a person, as a friend, but I think when he went to TNS the first time and he'd win league title after league title, and to win 25 plus silverware trophies and to be in Europe, Champions League, Europa League, and to be very successul, I think it takes some. It's not a fluke. You know what I mean? So I think when we look at the Michael Carricks and we look at other managers who've been successful, it was a great insight for me of a philosophy, of a way of thinking. I like some things he was talking about players, about the way that players' mentalities changed there, because I think sometimes when you get older and you step into that management or coaching environment, you forget how a player thinks. But Craig's got to think that every day. You know what I mean, as a manager, because you've got to understand how a player works. If he needs a rollicking, or if he needs an arm around his shoulder, if he needs a bit of time off, if he needs extra training. You've got to try and find that right solution, but not for one player, but for 25 of them.
A couple of messages have come in, and I know Craig's left us now, but there's a couple of messages coming in wishing him well for the weekend against Newtown. Thanks for them. And we've got lots more messages as well to get through in general in terms of the Borough. But Craig Harrison, great. Absolutely wonderful to hear from him. It is Cam's Red Army, right across Teesside on DAB radio, online to the world, and also on our usual Facebook Live and YouTube platforms. If you like the show, follow, subscribe, do all that sort of stuff. It would be useful. Let's talk some footy, mate. Let's talk some Borough footy.
Yeah.
So let's go back to Stoke.
Yeah.
What went wrong?
I think we came up against, I'd probably call them a stubborn side. I think Stoke, they were on the back of 2 wins. They beat Sunderland 2-1. They beat Leeds, quite luckily in my opinion. Obviously Leeds missed a penalty.
Yeah.
So you come in on the back of 2 very good results, and I think we probably got a little bit complacent. We got a little bit, or maybe overconfident a little bit. They went in there just expecting to go win the game. I think as a supporter we did. And I think that look showed a little bit on the pitch. And I think when we went 1-0 behind, you go and try and chase, and when you go and chase and you lose your discipline a little bit, you leave gaps. And I think when we lost that second goal, it left I think it left for me we're in a position where we ain't getting back from 2. You know what I mean? We're good enough to get back from 1, but I think certain games and times and against certain sides, you just got to take it on the chin. And I think you were beaten by the better side, who created just as many chances as we did. Yes, we had the ball, but they let us have the ball at times, and they played a lot in front of them. They let them play a lot in front of them. It frustrated the fans a little bit. It frustrated probably the players, and we got a little bit sloppy in certain areas. I think we missed Hayden absolutely massively, and I didn't probably realise how important he was until he wasn't playing. I think sometimes you find that player who you think's important but not as important until he doesn't play, and he was a massive hole in what we try to do. You know what I mean? You fill him in with a very good footballer, but no, there's only one Hayden Hackney, I think. And I think when he comes back in, and he came back in against Exeter, I think it showed, even though he's still a young player, he gives a lot of confidence in those players around him.
Yeah. Is there any coincidence it was Stoke City who actually did us last year as well?
And listen, Stoke City are...
it's Alex Neil, isn't it? That's the thing.
They're a big football club. They've got good players. You know, I think sometimes, because league positions, you get embroiled in thinking that teams aren't very good. You know what I mean? But you look at the two sides that beat previously before us. You know what I mean? Two very good sides who got aspirations to get promoted. You know, that's three teams that beaten who got aspirations to get promoted, and they're still in and around the bottom half of the table. So I think respect where respect's due. I think Alex Neil's a very good manager, experienced, knows the league. He came with his tactics. Loved them or hate them. I think they were spot on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He came and shut up shop at times and let us have the ball at times, but then broke and hit us on the break and did an absolutely fantastic job. And I think it won't work every week, but when it works, it looks perfect. And
it seemed to work against Sunderland.
Yeah, it did. And it worked against Leeds as well.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
So, you know what I mean? But it won't work every week. And I think if you play it every week, it'll get found out. But, you know what I mean? Saturday, it worked out really well for them.
Yeah. A couple of messages coming in. Sorry, some of these are delayed. I do apologise. But we have been chatting with Craig Harrison, first and foremost, on the show. Stu Gawley, evening, everyone. Dave pulling a double Monday. Yeah, I was on this morning. Yeah, I know. Cade, evening, lads. Ben Lamb, can Cam get on the pitch? With our current strikers unable to score, you might bag us some goals, mate.
I think if the brains work and the legs aren't, I'd love to, mate. In all fairness, but listen, I'll probably refer back to the game before. Josh gets in some unbelievable opportunities, but he's just lacks that killer instinct, that confidence. I think goals are like buses at times. When you get one,
he's only young talent as well.
He is, yeah.
Is he going to refine his game? Is he going to become a little bit more deadly as the experience seeps in?
I think I would have liked to seen him play against Exeter to probably get his confidence going, but I understood why he didn't play, because he played a lot of football. So it's like chicken and egg, isn't it? You know what I mean? He's getting the right solution and the right appetite from the players, and I think I think the manager obviously got his tactics and his team selection spot on, which was fantastic. But I think I'd have liked to seen him probably play and maybe get his confidence going, but I think that'll have to come in a different game.
You were there. You've won those boots as a striker. Just a single goal, I'm assuming, just gives you that.
It's huge.
Bit of self-belief.
It's huge, but I think look at the bigger picture. He's a young local player, and the fans will give him an opportunity. The fans love the way that he plays. The results have come while he's been playing. So don't lose any confidence. You know what I mean? I think other people are creating chances, scoring goals in and around him. But if he can just get that composure at something at times, or just get one in off his backside. To be fair, anything, a goal's a goal. I don't think he'll care if it comes from 30 yards or 2 centimetres out. You know, I think he just needs that opportunity, I think, now.
Mate, as a fan, I'll be happy if it comes off the referee's backside. I don't care. No, I don't care. Skelly's been on. See you in the morning. Skelly's going to be the Boro fan on the North East Footy Breakfast. Good to see you. Good to see your message. And he's talking about the Exeter game. We'll come on to that, but he does say, what a journey. I would do that journey twice over to see those goals and a win like that up the Boro. So
on that point, though, Dave, for 1,400 Middlesbrough fans to go on a
wet Tuesday
night
with
to drive down there,
battering in,
you know what I mean, to go to a game. You know what I mean? Michael's first comment in his interview was about the supporters, and rightly so, because listen, the players get all the rewards. The players get absolutely rewarded for what they do, and rightly so, because they went there, they put a shift in, and they came through a very, very tough cup game. But the fans absolutely got the players over the line, and they do it week in, week out, by the way, you know, and then to come back and get back at 6 a.m, like I know some did, and then we've got Plymouth at the weekend. It's absolutely just the joys of being a Middlesbrough fan are absolutely fantastic.
Well, you mentioned Carrick and his first words, and they were his first words. His post-match interview, which is available in full on mfc.co.uk, starts off. He's asked a question about the game.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even answer that. He goes on, and this is what he had to say.
I have to, first of all, though, I have to mention the supporters. Got 1,400, 1,500 supporters down here on a Tuesday night. a long way from home, and on a week where we go to Plymouth obviously on Saturday. Amazing, you know. So a big thank you for me and the players, because it's incredible. We don't take it for granted, and for all the people that we're pleased for, I'm pleased for the players tonight. I'm pleased for the club, obviously, to get through, but to repay the effort that they've given us tonight is pretty special, and they deserve it. So long may it continue. You know, if we get another away draw and travel again, and look forward to the next round.
And a big chunk of them are going to have to do the same thing on Saturday morning.
Yeah, again, listen to the way he talks, you know what I mean? That thanks to the supporters, rightly so. Thanks to the players, thanks to the club, you know. Thanks to you, Michael, you know what I mean, for doing what you're doing as well. You know, I think sometimes that managers, and like Craig's just said, I think the managers get forgotten about. Managers become famous for losing football matches. Managers become famous for losing their jobs. Managers become famous for the wrong reasons. When football clubs are doing well, managers just go on that journey and on that wave of success. And at the minute, things are looking great. Things are going well. Yes, we might have lost at the weekend, but losing football games are part and parcel of football, unfortunately. But he absolutely just epitomises everything what Middlesbrough Football Club's all about. It's a family club. It's a very, very well football club, run football club, and it's run by the supporters. You know what I mean, first and foremost, and he knows that. You know what I mean? He's played for some of the biggest football clubs in the country, United and West Ham, and played for England and being a Newcastle fan. So he knows exactly how important supporters are. And Middlesbrough Football Club have got the best, which is fantastic.
We've been asked already for your predictions. We'll come on to that soon. We're not quite done just yet, but there's plenty more comments coming in. Rice saying Hayden Hackney has done wonders since his loan spell with Scunthorpe. He really is developing, isn't he, into a cracking midfielder.
Oh, listen, for a player who earned his stripes going on loan at Scunthorpe, and he's come in, he's been given an opportunity. He came out a little bit of last year, which I think was perfect timing. To now be given the recognition from his country at under 21 level, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing for Middlesbrough moving forward in terms of him staying at the football club, because when that happens, you get scouts from Premier League looking at him. The way he plays with so much confidence, so much arrogance, but good arrogance. You know what I mean? He doesn't believe he's anything special. He just goes on the pitch with just pure belief. And being a local player, and I've been in that position that you get more opportunities because you're a local player, but what comes with that is more pressure as well, that you never get away from. The fact that you're a Middlesbrough Football Club footballer, that he goes home and people know where he lives. He'll go to the shop, he'll see Middlesbrough fans, that everywhere he goes he's got to be reminded, or will be reminded, that he's a Middlesbrough Football Club footballer, which brings his own pressures, and he's handling that really well, and long may that continue, because he's absolutely brilliant, and you can just tell that he absolutely adores and loves every time he walks on that pitch in that red shirt.
Ian says without the fans, football would be nothing. Good point, mate. Rob says Exeter and Plymouth games both sold out. Massive credit to the fans. We've got an interesting one here, because one of our regular viewers, I think he watches on Facebook or YouTube, lives in Plymouth and is a split loyalty Boro and Plymouth fan. So it's going to be an interesting weekend in the Rye household. Is that right? It is Rye.
Yeah.
He said it wasn't a long journey to go and see the Boro play at Exeter. Obviously, it wouldn't be if you were living in Plymouth.
No, short one.
And I don't know whether I should read this out, but he goes, it's the Green Army on Saturday. Not sure, mate. Not sure. It's the Red Army.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna throw it back on you then. So comment in the chat, please. Who's going to win at the weekend? If you're going to ask our comments, I'd like to know what the score will be and who you will be supporting on Saturday.
Two questions, right? Who are you supporting on Saturday, and what's your prediction on the score? We'll come on to that. Let's just have a quick chat about Exeter.
Yeah.
Because that was that had massive potential of being a big banana skin.
Yep.
And I know it wasn't shown on Sky, but there were cameras there. It was produced, and it was beamed around the world. Went into America, went into Australia, etc., in the Gulf. And I'm sure they were there for one reason and one reason only. But how important was it for us to come through that one?
But the TV cameras are there for one reason. They're there to see an upset. They're there to see the underdogs take something from the game. They're there to see the home fans run on the pitch on the 95th minute after they've knocked a big side out the cup. So I'm glad that didn't happen. It's so important for the club to win after what happened at the weekend, first and foremost. But I think the way this cup journey's gone, you know what I mean, and look at the first round against Huddersfield, and then to play Bolton, then to play Bradford, and then go play Exeter, and then we go obviously the next one. you couldn't handpick a better cup run. You know what I mean? Yes, they've all been away games, which is great for the pitch. It keeps the pitch in good nick. I think the fans enjoy travelling. Listen,
particularly with the storm coming through.
Yeah, regardless that we talk about the fan, we got the best fans. We do have the best fans, and the fans love an away day. Even if it is on a Tuesday night or a Wednesday night, they love going to Port Vale in the next round. I'm absolutely disgusted what I read earlier on that the games are going to be live on Sky. I thought that was one thing that and I'll take Middlesbrough out of it. You know what I mean? As a football fan, I'm a football fan. This is Port Vale's probably the biggest game in recent history. This is an opportunity for them to make a major upset, to get the semi-final of a League Cup, and for them not to be given the opportunity, those players in that football club and their fans and the whole football club to be able to show their club on Sky is an absolute travesty. And I think it just shows how wrong football can be at times, and to have an all Premier League tie or all Premier League ties shown on Sky is just all wrong, and it shows.
I can, because I used to work in telly, so I can see why the execs will have thought we need an all Premier League team on match on Sky, because it's going to be a big battle. There's going to be, the two teams will be well known throughout the world, so it'll be on international feeds. But there's absolutely no reason, with all the channels that Sky have got. Mm-hmm. Why don't they do that on Sky Football or Main Event? But on the other football, whichever one they don't put it on, you could stick the second game on. Because, look, I'm a Boro fan, and I'm going to fully believe that the Boro's going to go down there, they're going to win, they're going to be in the semi-final of the League Cup. However, there is that chance of an upset. Yep. You've just sold the Port Vale argument about it's already the furthest they've progressed, and they could take the scalp of a championship club and progress one step further and get into the semi-finals. So it should be on TV. Yeah,
somebody put a point on X earlier on. I put a comment on that.
Formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, that I wasn't happy, obviously, with the decision that the Sky had made. And somebody said that quarter-final, all 4 games, 2 on Tuesday and 2 on Wednesday, should be shown live on TV. And I just thought, what a really good idea. You know what I mean? Because if your team's got to the quarter-final, you probably deserve. It could be a long trip to Exeter, which you're not lucky enough to get a ticket because the ground's not big enough, or you're not lucky enough to be able to travel because of work, either the day or the next day because of other commitments. I think it's so important that you're able to support your own side and get behind your team, because it could be the end of your journey. Because listen, out of those 8 teams, 4 are going to lose. They're not going to make the semi-finals, which are home and away. So Middlesbrough won't have played at home all the way through the cup, and hopefully the first cup game in this League Cup is going to be a semi-final in one of the legs, which would be great. But you've got a huge game against Port Vale, which is going to be a tough one. Listen, they're never easy games, and you're going into the game with the pressure on your shoulders. The Exeter game was no different. You handled that. They went behind. But the regrouped manager made lots of changes, which I think helped the team. I think a lot of the attacking changes, we look fresh. We had some of the goals we scored were outstanding, by the way.
Well,
absolutely
4 of the 5 goals. I mean, the penalty was tucked away nicely, but the other 4 goals were all outstanding from both sides.
And I think it's that for me is a shame that it wasn't on the bigger stage, that Sky weren't able to show those outstanding moments and things. And I think. Listen, the game's going to be won against Port Vale, either in 90 minutes or in extra time or penalties, and I think it's important that, for me, supporters have their opportunity to watch it. But I think it is such a shame. But for me, the most important thing is for Middlesbrough to get through now and progress, because we're now talking about a stage where, before we were talking, Dave, weren't we, about we need to win to get confidence. We need to be Bradford because we've lost so many games. We're now 1 game away from a 2-legged semi-final against a Premier League side. You know what I mean? So we need to do that. We're 3 games away from a Wembley appearance. You know what I mean? So I think the most important thing is the bigger picture.
We've got a comment here from Craig Fowler. It's a question. Would Cams go after their goal scorer? I mean, he grabbed a couple, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Listen,
it looked like he gave a penalty away at the end.
Yeah, I know he did. Yeah, I think I'd probably have a little look. I think it'd be a long-term investment. You know what I mean? I think the way that the club looks at things, probably the right age. But it's do we get those kind of players and have a long-term investment and loan them back? You know what I mean? The recruitment, you can't second guess that at the minute. We talked earlier on at the start of the season about the players that we'd lost, and the players that we brought in. I wasn't expecting probably the players that we'd brought in. So you know what I mean? I can't guess the way that the recruitment is getting driven at the minute by the football club. And with another comment that I read on social media over the weekend about Akpom, that he I think he got his first few minutes. I know they're playing again tonight. But listen, there's some big players who are going to be coming available, and you know what I mean. But you talk about players from lower leagues, you know what I mean, and the lad's no different. But score goals, there's high evaluation on yourself. So it's
Ryan Trevitt, I think was his name, wasn't it? Ryan Trevitt.
Interesting one though.
Yeah, and you just touched on Akpom there. It's interesting to know that the lads who left the Boro from last season are all bench players, are not getting the game.
Yeah,
none of them have forced their way as a regular starting 11 player,
and that's not something that we wanted to happen. Listen, we put these players on a pedestal of greatness. I think last year, you know what I mean. Akpom, the amount of goals he scored, Giles, the amount of assists he had, how good he looked, how he bags of energy. Archer,
as a
Ramsey,
supporting striker,
you know what I mean?
and goal scorer,
these kind of players who we made look absolute world beaters in the Championship, in good size. Fans adored them, players enjoyed playing with them, the manager brought the best out of them. The message I'll probably pass across is, and I know this as a player myself, and as a manager, that the grass isn't always greener when you move to other clubs, and I think it's important that you know that. But listen, you sometimes you get your fingers burnt, and I think for different reasons these moves will have been good moves, but I think for football reasons they've turned out to be shockers, I think.
A couple of comments coming in because we're rapidly running out of time here on the Red, on Cam's Red Army. Rise come back. He's supporting Argyle on Saturday.
Oh.
He said he was born in Plymouth.
Switch off.
So it's his local team. But he does honestly think Boro's going to win 3-1.
Right,
saved himself.
Massively saved himself. I thought you were going to sit on the fence there.
Jeff Usherwood. I'm reading this as it comes in, and if I've got to edit it, I will. But no, I think it's all right. I think it's safe. Cam, Carrier Bag Cup. The quarter-final is likely to see some of the more regular first-team players come back into the team. As a player, what does it feel like if you're one of the second-string players who then miss out in the latter stages?
I don't like it at all. I think the cup's been disrespected far too many times by teams, by football clubs, and sometimes by supporters. And I think when you're one of those players who've got your club to a certain level in the competition, then all of a sudden you don't play. I think it's such a shame. You know what I mean? I know clubs and Man City did it a couple of years ago, didn't they? Where the goalkeeper played all the way through and ended up playing the final. I think it was Stefan anyway. I think he played in the final, and I think those things have got to be kept all the way through. I think it's so disheartening for a player if you get to the semi-final or the final and you don't play. I think it's so disrespectful, and I think clubs have the right to either have a continuation of those players who played all the way through, or go strong all the way through and hope that you don't pick any injuries up and you can go as long as possible, because the cup is an important cup. It's a chance to go and play at Wembley. It's a chance to lift a major trophy in England, and listen, you don't give that opportunity up. You know what I mean? The Middlesbrough have had a huge history with this cup, regardless of what it's been called, through the Worthington Cup, through the Carling Cup, through the League Cup, whatever, Coca-Cola Cup. Now the Carabao Cup, it's an important cup competition which the club have always had a good history in, and I think it's an important one that we carry that through.
Final comments coming in from Tracy Brand. Would you expect Dieng to come back in between the sticks?
Me personally, yes. I think he's. Listen, I think he's been.
Is that because we're in the quarterfinals now, and there's you've got to take that chance to progress to the semis because you've been given one?
Yeah, listen, I don't think now we can take any risks. I didn't see the changes that he made on Tuesday as risks, if I'm honest. And I think we've gone strong the majority of the way through. I don't think we've made too many changes. I think that the most we made was Tuesday.
Yeah.
But the players that we brought in were hungry. They come off the bench. I know Glover hadn't played a lot of football, but I think we've got to go strong, because if you go to Port Vale and the result doesn't go, people straight away they'll look at selection, because that's what we do. We've got to try and pick holes in something, being in this kind of industry. And I think, you know what I mean, for me, go strong, because if you are going to lose, you've got no regrets.
And just to wrap it all up, mate, prediction for the weekend: Plymouth Argyle, long trip.
Yeah, long trip. Longer for the supporters than it will be for the players. I'm not sure how the players will get there. Yeah, but it'll be longer for the fans, and safe journey to all the fans first and foremost. I think it'll be a really, really tough game. I think both teams will score. I think I agree with Rye there, but I do think we'll just nick it. I think Plymouth they've conceded a lot recently. I think they started off really well, but I'm going 2-1 Boro.
Good man. That's it. Another Cam's Red Army done and dusted. Thanks to Craig Harrison, by the way, for joining us. It was good to hear from him. I had no idea what his record was like in Wales. It's tremendous.
I'd looked this morning as well at certain things, and I'd written down on my phone about 500 games, but I thought it was a typo, because I think you forget sometimes what age you went into football management, and obviously similar age to me, and I think how anybody can have 500 games at my age as a manager is absolutely outstanding. So you know what I mean, he's just absolutely brilliant.
Could have had 2,000 by my age, I'm telling you. Andy, great stuff. We'll see you next week.
Fantastic, thank you.
Terrific. Cam's Red Army back with you on the Red, and all our usual platforms like Facebook Live and YouTube. Don't forget, follow, and subscribe. That's what we're asking you to do. Back next week.